Are fractions and decimals related? Let's get into it. The difference between a fraction and a decimal is really just the way that they're written. So they're still equivalent, they're still the same thing, they're just written in a different way. So fractions, we have the numerator and the denominator. Decimals, you're really making them out of tenths and hundredths and thousandths. Hi, I'm Sarah. I've been teaching science and math for the past 20 years, and I like to make math as engaging and fun as possible. If you're interested in more videos, more worksheets, more math, I'm available for some private tutoring sessions, so go to the link and do the stuff. 1/5 is the same thing as 1 divided by 5. We can divide the numerator by the denominator, and that's how we can get into the decimal form. You can also look at how many tenths. So if we think about place value is the position after the decimal or before the decimal, right? So you have the decimal point, you have tenths, hundredths, thousandths. We're really going to focus on just the tenths and the hundredths, which is 1 and 2 spaces after the decimal. If we think about how we can make this into a number out of 10. So this is the same way that we talk about when we're adding and subtracting fractions, making a common denominator. So when we look at this, if we have 5 times 2 goes to 10. So whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. This is almost like, actually, this is a lot like when you're simplifying fractions just the other way. 1 times 2, and that's going to give us 2 on top. So 1/5 is the same as 2 tenths, which as a decimal, saying 2 tenths, if we look at the place value, that would be 0.2. So 2 tenths is the same thing as 1/5, 0.2. That's mathed up. All right, so our next problem where we're going from a fraction to a decimal is 1/4. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna do the same thing that we had done before where we're going into tenths, but if you look at 1/4, I can't easily convert 1/4 into tenths, but what I can do is I can put it into 1/100ths. So if I go from 4, if I take 4 times 25, that'll give me 100. Same with the 1. So I can do 1/4 equals 25 over 100, and 25 100ths is 0.25. So 25 hundredths is 0.25, and that's mathed up. This last one is kind of the easiest one there. So 3 tenths. So if we have 3 tenths, well, that's already basically in a decimal form, right? So 3 tenths, if we just listen to what we're saying, describing it, we've got 3 tenths, which is 0.3. That's mathed up. How do you add decimals? Let's get into it. You know, when you're adding and subtracting fractions, you have to make sure that you get the common denominator and all of that. But when they're in decimal form, you're talking about them all in tenths and hundredths and all of that. So really, if you think about it, they already have the common denominator. So I don't need to change any sort of form. Hi, I'm Sarah. I've been teaching science and math for the past 20 years, and I like to make math as engaging and fun as possible. If you're interested in more videos, more worksheets, more math, I'm available for some private tutoring sessions. So go to the link and do the stuff. So this is why a lot of people, when you get into more advanced math, they'll just kind of switch the fractions into decimals before they even start the lesson. But, you know, remember, fractions are friends. Decimals are okay. So the first problem, it's written out sideways like this. When we're working with decimals and we're adding them, again, we don't have to do a common denominator. Instead of changing anything about the number, we're just gonna change how we line them up. So I'm going to rewrite this in a vertical way. Hi, I'm Sarah. I've been teaching science and math for the past 20 years, and I like to make math as engaging and fun as possible. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep my decimal lined up. I'm gonna bring that decimal down because now I've got everything all lined up. So I'm gonna add that up, but just like we learned when we're adding multiple digits together, we wanna start from the right and work our way to the left. So I'm gonna start over here with 2 plus 4. So 2 plus 4 gives me 6. I don't need to carry anything, and then 1 plus 2 gives me 3. 1.2 plus 2.4 gives me 3.6. That's mathed up. All right, so our next problem is 3.41 plus 0.28. So I'm still keeping these all lined up. I'm still keeping the decimals all lined up and all of that. I just went ahead and I wrote it out vertically because that's a little bit easier. We still go right to left. So we're going to start all the way on the right because that's technically like the smallest place value. So 1 plus 8 is 9. And I go on, I have 4 plus 2 is 6. I bring the decimal down, that doesn't change. And then I've got 3 plus 0, which is 3. So 3.41 plus 0.28 is 3.69. That's mathed up. Ooh, this last one is fun. All right, so our last one is, this one's a little bit tricky just because we're gonna have to actually do some carrying. But you'll see. It's really just the same thing as adding and subtracting with like multi-digit numbers. The only thing that's really different is just keeping the decimal lined up. That's all it is. So 2.07, put that here, 2.07 plus 1.98. Okay, so I'm going to start all the way to the right again. So I've got 7 plus 8, which gives us 15. So I put the 5 down, carry the 1.
Oh, the 5.
Oh, what happened? So we put the 5 down and carry the 1. Then we have 1 plus 0 plus 9, which gives us 10. So I've got the 0 and carry the 1 again. Put in the decimal, because the decimal doesn't change. 1 plus 2 plus 1, so that is 4. So 2.07 plus 1.98 equals 4.05, and that's mathed up. How do you subtract decimals? Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Sarah. I've been teaching science and math for the past 20 years, and I like to make math as engaging and fun as possible. If you're interested in more videos, more worksheets, more math, I'm available for some private tutoring sessions, so go to the link and do the stuff. So subtracting decimals is just like when you're adding or subtracting multi-digit numbers, you just have to keep track of the decimal and keep it all lined up. So when we're looking at this first one, 5.3 minus 1.1, it's the same thing as 53 minus 11, just the decimal's in a different spot. So we take 3 minus 1, which is 2. We bring the decimal down. 5 minus 1 is 4. So 5.3 minus 1.1 is 4.2, just like 53 minus 11 is 42. That's mathed up. 3.7 minus 0.6, how would you do it? So 7 minus 6 is 1. We'll bring the decimal down. 3 minus 0 is 3. So 3.7 minus 0.6, just like 37 minus 6, would be 3.1 or 31. That's mathed up. And our final. Okay, I know this one has more digits than what we've been working on, but it's okay. Because remember, as math gets more complicated, it's still the same idea, right? It's still the same way to solve it. So we still look at this with just subtracting multi-digit numbers. Just keep track of the decimal. So 3 minus 2 is 1. The next one, we've got 1 minus 8. Can't really do 1 minus 8. So we have to borrow. So we turn this into 11 and we borrow 1 from that, 2. Right? So we have 11 minus 8, which is 3. Bring the decimal down. 1 minus 1 is 0. So 2.13 minus 1.82 is 0.31. That's mathed up. Why do we need to round numbers? Let's get into it. You can round to any place value. If I say round to the nearest tenths, what you're going to do is you're going to actually look next door at the next number in the hundredths place. And then if it's 5 or greater, you're going to round up. You're going to bring this tenths number up. 4 or less, you're going to have it stay. You're being asked to round to the nearest hundredth. This 2 is in the hundredths place, right? So what we want to do is we want to actually look next door at this 3. Now this 3 is less than 5. So what we're going to do is we're just going to basically cut this off. This number here, we're going to cut this off. So what we're left with is 10.12. So that is to the nearest hundredths. So 10.123 rounds off to the nearest hundredth, which is 10.12. It's mathed up. 5.246, let's round to the nearest hundredth. So again, we're gonna look, so we're rounding off to the nearest hundredth, which is where this 4 is. right? So what we do is we look next door and we see that, oh, this is 6. So 6 is greater than 5, so it's going to bump up that 5.24 and change it to 5.25. So we round that off to 5.25. So that is to the nearest hundredths. And that's mathed up. Last one, still rounding to the nearest hundredths. This one's a little tricky. I like to throw little tricky problems in there every once in a while. Okay, so again, rounding to the nearest hundredths, we're gonna look, the process is still the same, right? We're still the same steps. So we look at that 9, that's where we're gonna round off to, but next to it is an 8. So that means we're gonna bump it up. But if we bump 9 up, it's gonna become 0. So what we actually need to do is, since this is 19, we're actually gonna bump this whole thing up to 0.20. So it kind of cascades up, and since the 9 gets pushed up to like 10, then it adds the 1 to the other one. So the 9 gets pushed up to 10, so the 1 gets pushed up to 20. So we end up with 0.20. I know it's confusing, but you'll get the hang of it. That's mathed up. What makes one decimal bigger than another? Let's get into it. So I'm gonna take this 4/5 and I'm gonna rewrite this as a decimal. 4/5 equals, and I'm gonna put that over 10. 5 times 2 gives me 10, so 4 times 2 gives me 8. 1 4/5 equals 1 8/10, which is 1.8. We want to compare each place value. Our place values are going to give us an idea of which numbers are the greatest. Everybody has a 1 in the ones place. They're all fine. Then we look at 1.45 has a 4 in the tenths place. 1.54 has a 5 in the tenths place. And 1.8 has an 8 in the tenths place. 1.8, or 1 4/5, is the greatest number, and the smallest number is 1.45. It doesn't matter what the other numbers are. As soon as we see with the tenths place, that's mathed up. All right, so comparing decimals, we want to make sure that we're looking at the place value, right? So we look at these numbers. We have 4.80, 4.08, 4.18. So we look, everybody's got a 4 in the ones place, they're even. Then we look at the tenths place. So 4.80 has 8 tenths. 4.08, that has 0 tenths. That's a lot less than 8. And then we have 4.18, and it has 1/10. So that one's in the middle. And what do I always say? Nothing wrong with being in the middle. So our smallest number in this set is 4.08. And our largest number with 8/10 is 4.80. That's mathed up. Yeah. Thanks for checking us out. If you have any questions, you can drop a comment. If you have any suggestions, put in a comment. If you want to follow more and get more worksheets, get more worksheets, more practice problems, click on the link and do the stuff.